Good morning, everybody. It is February 14th. It is Valentine's Day. February 14th, 2025. I'm trying to think how many Valentine's Day this has been for Vicky and I. That's a lot. I know at least 40 because we just passed through. That's 41 that this was our 41st being married. But then let me think here. 2 years before that. I mean, we're talking like 44, I think, 44, maybe 42. Anyway, who cares? You're sitting there going like, I don't care. Who are you? What's up with you? And why are you bothering me in my morning fun? Or whatever you might call it. So anyway, nevertheless, good morning. Hope you're having a good day today so far. For those of you that are in another part of the world, if this is the middle of your day or the end of your day or it's well into it, it's just starting for us. It's 6:08. I'm a little late on my day. Anyway, so good morning. Hope everything's going well for you. If I haven't got a chance to meet you, my name's Jay. My wife Vicky and I will lead this church called The Gate, Northwest Indiana, Chicagoland area. Absolutely love what we do. Been doing it for a lot of years here, and so it's a lot of fun. And seeing God move. We say we're located, or we are here in Northwest Indiana, and that we are. But our goal is just to connect people in faith communities across the nation, and we do it in the home. And so I just encourage you to be a part of that and be a part of us. Just start a faith community. We call them gate hubs right there in your home, and you can just put a church in your home and see what God has for all of that. So anyway, that's all that. I come to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday like this just to give you a little thought and encouragement. Hopefully something just you can take with your day, but mainly just to say you're not alone, and just kind of go from there. So I have a thought for you today. I was reading this quote, and it kind of actually reminded me of Valentine's. So here's the quote. Let me see if I can get it for you here. Good morning, Rhonda. Good morning, Alex. Blessings on you guys. So here's my quote of the quote that I came across, and it is: "Commitment is the foundation of great accomplishments." And I started thinking about that, and as soon as I thought about, or I read that and I saw it, I thought to myself, that literally is marriage. And and I know my thoughts were probably coming up on Thanksgiving, coming up on Valentine's Day and everything else, and I started thinking about it. I was thinking, there's been days where you walk through, maybe your relationships in your life, whether you're dating or you're married, whatever the case is, those kinds of relationships, they just kind of start feeling a little bit heavy. Maybe where you're going it just kind of starts feeling like it's a little more work than it used to be, or maybe the quote unquote spark has kind of flittered away, or the spark that lands, kind of like a little spark that lands on the ground, it just kind of fizzles out because there's no fire with it, and that kind of stuff. And I think that's something that, it happens, and it really does happen. Some days it's tougher than others. But the reality about marriage, if we're going to talk about marriage here today, or we're going to talk about these quote-unquote love relationships that we have with our spouse, and I think the biggest thing that you have to really come to understand is that those days are going to come, but it still doesn't matter, because it wasn't about the spark that you got there, or the love, or the, man, she's a knockout, or man, he is one good-looking guy. I used to tell my kids that, when I was growing up, and before they came along, my name was Strock. That was my worldwide wrestling name. It was Strock. I was a WWE champion, and Strock in my weight division, half steel, half rock. And I said, that's why your mom married me, because she just thought, she goes, I got to get with Strock. And they were really, really young when they stopped believing that, believe it or not. I mean, you had the one time when they were young. Now I talk with my grandkids about it, and I have some of them believing. I think it's only Arlington that believes it now, and he doesn't have a choice because he's not even at the point of believing or not believing. He's like 9 months old. But anyway, I digress. But the reality comes down to it is that this whole idea of love, and this whole idea of marriage and living together, cohabiting, whatever people call it, it's very very finely defined. In fact, Sunday you need to tune in on Sunday. I've got a message that I'm talking about the mystery of marriage, the divine design, and the Bible calls marriage a mystery. It is you can't define it. You can't redefine it. You can't decide to make it whatever you want it to be, whatever the case is. And on this Valentine's Day, I thought about that. And after serving serving Vicky and being with Vicky, for my wife, for over 43, 44 years, we started dating in 82, I think it was, 1982. Yeah. And and the reality comes down to is this. Good morning, Rosanna. There is a component to this idea of relationships, and component to this idea of being all in your relationship, in a marriage, and that is commitment. It's just simply commitment. I'm committed to this. I'm all in. Vicky and I have a rule: we never bring up the quote unquote D word, divorce, and I mean, if it ever does, it's really bad, and it doesn't, and we just don't, because we're committed to this. We're not going to sit there and try to flirt around all the different things. I'm all in. I'm committed. There's certain things that I do every day with Vicky, and I make her coffee, whether I'm upset with her or not, or whether I'm frustrated, or she's quote unquote, as people acted the way she should, as my wife, or be the kind of guy that he should be. And my actions and my little love language to her or whatever is going to go up or down depending on that. And I've never been that way. I still serve her, even when I'm not overly impressed. And, there's days and you're saying like, oh my gosh, you have to be always impressed with your spouse. Not exactly, because we married flawed, you married flawed people. And guess what? That person that married you married a flawed person too. So I guess my point today is this idea of commitment. You need to understand commitment. And in Colossians 3:23, it talks about it, is that set your hand to the plow and make it up. You're plowing a field. It says there to treat your wife. In the Bible, it says there for men to treat your wife with understanding, because she thinks different than you. She's a fragile vessel, and she thinks different than you. And I do the best I can to understand and understand the way Vicky sees it, and kind of go from there. And then the old things of submitting and loving and all of this kind of stuff. It all boils down to one word: commit. I've committed to this thing. I stood before my dad at our wedding, and I said these vows, and I said till death divide us, and it's commit. It's simply commit. If you want to achieve anything, now if you want to bring it out a little bit wider, and let me just kind of bring everybody in on this, and just kind of listen, go wider. Every decision you've made is either failed or continue on by commitment. I don't know if you've ever known this, ever heard about this story about how Valentine actually started, but there was in AD 300, AD 400, something like that. There was this Saint Valentine, and he was actually canonized. This is a historical figure. Some of the things around it aren't completely, there's probably more of legend, but he basically got thrown in jail because he was doing marriages, because in the Roman Empire they were sending their men off to war, and they found out that they didn't fight as strong or fight as committed when they were married, because they had something to lose. And so they outlawed marriage. And St. Valentine goes, you can't outlaw marriage. It just doesn't happen that way. That's like I'm going to outlaw the sun. We can't have the sun anymore. That just doesn't make any sense. You can't, we're going to create a law to define marriage. That's impossible. The reason is because God intended it. And so Valentine's sitting there going like, dude, you can't do that. And so the story goes that he's been doing these secret marriages, and they find out about it. And the Roman Empire just blows a gasket, throws him in jail. And while he's in jail, he starts writing these notes to his wife, letting him know, I'm still committed to you. I'm going to be committed to you. I'm never not going to be committed. If I die here, of which he did. He got He was, I don't know if he was beheaded, but he was executed for his beliefs. And he says, if I never see you again, he would write these incredible letters of which we get our Valentine. Meaning, here's, you're writing to the one you love. And so that's something that I think that, that is something that really people need to understand in this idea is we've got commitment. There's Valentine, everything. I want to share with one last story. This is our Valentine story from my family. And then we can go, okay? So I have an uncle, and his name was, I think it was Chapna. My brain is really fried right now, and I don't know why I can't remember, because I've studied a lot of my family, but I have some uncles, Spencer Erkson, Chapna Twallop, goes on down the line, Flannis Fortescue, there you go, there's a name for you. But I believe it was Chapna. And he married a girl by the name of Mary Beth or Mary Bell, something like that. And during their wedding celebration in my family down in the South where they would go, it would be like a whole week. They'd have the wedding, and then they went out to some land that we all owned, and the whole family would go out, and you'd have the cabin off in the woods. That was the wedding cabin and all that kind of stuff. So the story goes that, and this is a true story, I'm not sure about the timing on everything, but it was during that week somehow. But I think from what I understand, it was that night. It was their wedding night, and they were on this flat bottom boat, and they're having a great time out on this lake called Lake Hondo. And they're just kind of having a great time, everything's going, and all of a sudden, next thing we know is that Mary Bell, she falls over and over the edge, and she goes down, and she kind of comes up, and Chapman jumps in to save her. But she doesn't come back up. And so he's going down to find her and coming back up, and going down to find her and coming back up. He goes, I can't find her. And people are just freaking out. She's nowhere. Well, the next morning they go down. Basically it comes down, and then Chapman never came up either. And so when they go down to find her, when they're dredging everything, and they've got the divers to go down and find her and find them, they find them together, and Chapman's got his arms wrapped around her. They find out that there was some seaweed and some fishing line that had wrapped around Mary Beth, her legs. And when it happened there, what happened is that got, and she couldn't get out. So Chapman puts his arms around her and tries to pull her up from what they can see. But the reality is that she was never holding on to him. He was holding on to her. And I think that he decided, I'm all in on this thing. I married you, and I'm going to stay with you, even if it's underwater, until I get you out of this place. And the reality comes down to is she was never holding on to him. He could have just let go and jumped. Now, I know sometimes our marriages or our relationships feel like they're underwater and there's no way out. But I just want you to know that no matter what, you're going to be able to... you're going to make it through. And you're going to be able to, no matter how underwater you are, hold on to it. Even if the other person isn't holding on, just hold on. And know that it's going to be made right. All right? That's what I have for you today. And, I know it may sound like a little bit of a downer, but it wasn't. Just know that there was somebody that held on to you too. He put his arms wide out and was nailed to a cross. And he could have let go. He could have used something like, I'm done with this commitment. These guys are boneheads. I've done miracle after miracle. I've talked to this. I've fulfilled prophecy, and you're still a bonehead. And he looked at him and go like, man, the Bible has a definition. It's called idiot, and it's a person that doesn't learn and keeps doing the same thing. And he could have looked at him like, these people don't learn, Father. Just get me out of here. And he'd be decided. But he said, no, I'm committed. I'm committed 100%. I'm all in. Jesus was all in for you. Chapman was all in for his wife. St. Valentine was all in for his wife. I think we can be all in for each other. Be all in for your marriage. Be all in for your life, for those that are around you. Go all in. And no matter what happens, realize that commitment will be the foundation for every great accomplishment that you have. And the biggest great accomplishments are going to be your family. All right? That's what I've got for you. Love you guys. Let me pray for you. Share this post. Get it out there for somebody that really needs it. And then let's go from there. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I ask that your will would be in our lives, and that we would be refreshed and renewed to put our hand to the plow up the hard ground, do what needs to be done to see our commitments, our relationships, our marriages, our families to go forward in all of these things. We're all in, oh Lord. Thank you for being all in with us. In Jesus' name, amen. Blessings on you guys. Hey, listen, don't forget, make today count, because you're better than yesterday, but you're not near as good as tomorrow.